Welcome everybody to the final installment in our 2025 webinar series presented to you by the Social Presence Literacy Lab and the Center for Innovation in Research and Teaching at Grand Canyon University. So throughout this entire series, we have explored the evolving landscape of education and how social presence plays a vital role in strengthening human connections, especially now that AI has become integrated more into teaching and learning. Today, as we wind things down, we're going to look at the decision-making for AI integration into the classroom. We're going to examine the challenges of using AI, the role the faculty has, their responsibility, and then we're also going to introduce a simple 5-step framework to determine whether or not AI should be implemented into the classroom. I hope everyone enjoys the video. Let's go ahead and take a quick look at our agenda for today. First, we're going to explore the landscape of artificial intelligence in education. We're going to look at the past, the present, and the future of artificial intelligence use in the classroom. We're also going to ask what could go wrong. We're going to explore some of the risks, some of the challenges that come up with using AI in the classroom and how faculty can navigate them. And then we're going to talk about teaching with AI, which means to enhance and not replace our teaching practices with artificial intelligence. We're also going to look at the recipient test, which is a simple but very powerful way to ensure that students are at the center of everything we do. And then I'll introduce a 5-step framework to help faculty determine whether or not the artificial intelligence content they've created is appropriate for their classroom. And then we're going to finally end with a promise to teach with purpose and with presence. And that means to keep the human connection at the heart of learning. Before we jump into today's session, I wanted to highlight the 4 webinar series that came before this one because they truly tie together to make a cohesive outlook at the impact AI has on education and how vital social presence is needed. So in January, we looked at social presence in the age of AI. What is it? What does that look like? In February, we looked at the need for personalizing interaction when using AI. In March, it was about cultivating empathy. And then finally, April's webinar was about human-centered teaching in an AI-driven world. If you missed any of these sessions or you want to revisit them, please scan the QR code because it will give you access to all the recordings. Before we take a look at the changing landscape of education due to the use of AI, I wanted to do a quick reflection on would you use AI for that? And this reflection is actually tied to our Social Presence Literacy Lab's discussion forum as it's posted there. So please feel free to pause this video and reply to that discussion forum post on would you use AI with that, with just information on what would you use it for in each of these scenarios. So for each item you see on the screen, think about whether or not you would personally use AI to help you with it. Just answer yes or no. In the discussion forum, you can elaborate it and explain why or add, other scenarios where you would use AI or where you wouldn't use AI. So for example, would you use AI to create a discussion forum response? Would you use it to write personalized student feedback? Would you use it to generate an example for a concept that students are struggling with or designing a weekly announcement? And then also, is replying to a student's email, is it best to use AI in that situation? There's no right or wrong answer. It's just a way to reflect on how you're currently viewing the use of AI in your classroom. All right, so let's go ahead and jump into this month's webinar. And we're going to begin by setting the stage with the landscape of AI in education. So how is AI shaping the way we teach, the way we learn, and the way we connect in today's classroom? Let's take a look at how AI has evolved in the education landscape. If you're anything like me, I kind of assume that AI is a recent phenomenon, something that maybe has been around for the last 10, 15 years. But in reality, AI in education has been here for a couple of decades now. We kind of saw it in the 1960s with the introduction of the Plato system. And then in the 80s, we saw intelligent tutoring systems and the need for personalized learning. And then in the 2000s, we saw adaptive learning software and gamification software come about. However, between like the 60s and the early 2000s, progress with AI in education was slow. It wasn't anything that was like remarkable or there wasn't a boom. It remained largely experimental and limited. It had limited use in the classroom impact. It's only been in the last 10 to 15 years that we've seen a major shift between 2010 and 2020. Generative AI started to be used more meaningfully in education. In fact, in 2020, the U.S. Department of Education partnered with Digital Promise to explore AI's potential in learning. And then, really, we saw this boom in 2022 when ChatGPT was launched, and it brought generative AI into the mainstream education conversations. So now in 2024 and beyond, or even 2025, the focus becomes about human-centered AI integration, how faculty, students, and administrators can use AI to help enhance but not replace the human connection. Since AI uses is still in its infancy in education, there are some key concerns that faculty need to be aware of, and then also kind of how to address them and navigate them successfully. One of the biggest concerns is that emerging technology, AI is still evolving, it's adapting, and many of the AI tools that are out there for faculty to use, they're not fully mature yet. They're not fully developed enough to successfully integrate them into the classroom. And a huge one that faculty need to be aware of is that there's a lack of clear guidelines. Policy around AI use in education is still being developed. There is no universal framework, no established best practices yet for effectively integrating AI into the classroom. And this leaves educators having to navigate this on their own. And then it's experimental use. Faculty, we're often testing tools without formal training or best practices. And then most AI tools and applications, they're in the pilot phase, which is there's successes and limitations that are being explored. They're still being adapted and changed in order to kind of navigate those challenges as they come up. And then another issue that faculty tend to see is that there's rapid advancements in terms of AI use. AI technology develops quickly. It means what we use today might be outdated tomorrow, and it requires faculty to continually learn and adapt. And AI capabilities are changing so fast that sometimes it's hard to keep up. And then a huge issue is the legal and ethical uncertainties that come with AI use. So AI use, why it's efficient and it's great, there are questions around whether or not it's biased. There's privacy concerns, academic integrity issues that are still being addressed and answered. There's concerns about data security and the ethical use of AI, with unclear policies and guidelines to help faculty address these challenges. It's up to them to kind of help determine what to do and when to use AI in their classroom. And then there's potential for innovation and error. Faculty can help us create amazing new content, experiences, and tools for the classroom. But mistakes happen if we're not too careful. And so that's why it's so important for faculty to understand some of the issues and challenges that come up with using AI when it's still in its infancy and how to navigate them. Speaking of navigating the challenges that come up with AI, let's take a look at faculty's responsibility, which is to navigate AI use with integrity. Since the use of AI is still in its early stages and schools are working to establish clear guidelines, faculty are tasked with navigating these challenges on their own. In the absence of a comprehensive policy, it's essential that faculty take responsibility in terms of using AI ethically and maintaining academic integrity, and ultimately always having the students' best interest at the forefront of teaching. There's a couple of things that faculty can do to kind of help navigate AI with integrity. The first one is to always evaluate any AI tool that they plan on using in their classroom. We want to evaluate AI tools to ensure that they are aligned with the learning objectives, they add value to the course instead of just automating tasks. We want to make sure that these tools are effective in helping address student learning needs and objectives. We also want to use AI ethically. Transparency is key. We really should be upfront when we're using AI, set clear expectations, and protect student privacy in terms of using AI. We also need to look at assessing the risks and limitations. AI tools should be assessed for potential bias or inaccuracies or any other risks that are out there. And we also need to ensure that they don't intentionally harm or limit students' learning experiences. And then we really want to prioritize the human connection in the classroom. I've said this before, and it's so important. AI should enhance teaching, not replace the vital human connections that faculty have with students. It's essential to maintain empathy. It's essential to have personal engagement in the learning process. And if we evaluate the tools, we ensure that we're using them ethically. We ensure that we're assessing the risks and limitations of the AI use and putting human connection at the forefront of our teaching. We ensure that the students' needs are met. Now that we've looked at how there are challenges that come up with using AI in the classroom and how faculty can successfully navigate those challenges and what to do in terms of using AI with integrity, let's discuss how faculty can teach with AI by integrating the AI capabilities into their existing teaching practices. The goal is to use AI to enhance the learning experience, support personalized feedback, and streamline tasks, but also preserve the human connection that is essential to effective teaching. We're going to focus on practical strategies for blending AI with your pedagogical approach to create a more dynamic, a student-centered classroom. I think it's important to understand that AI use in the classroom is not a bad thing, but it's truly about having AI as a teaching partner and not as a substitute for effective teaching. AI truly can help support educators by automating repetitive tasks, but it cannot replace the nuanced human insight and empathy that teachers provide. And the teacher role truly remains vital in terms of building relationships with students, in terms of communication, engagement, and nurturing critical thinking in students. So AI has very many strengths. It can enhance efficiency, it supports content creation, assists with administrative tasks, and provides quick data insights. For example, faculty can use AI in terms of automating certain tasks in their classroom, and that really kind of helps alleviate some of the workload. And faculty can focus on having more time to help create discussions, coach students, and tutor students, and develop innovative learning experiences. Uh, AI can help students with quick feedback or provide students with resources, but it also cannot replace the faculty member. It can't create those rich, meaningful interactions that occur during live discussions or during personalized feedback. And all those connections are truly important, and it's really up to the faculty member to merge AI with their teaching practices so that way it enhances and becomes a teaching partner and it does not become a substitute. So, what do we mean by co-teaching with AI? Well, what we mean is if you look at this picture that we have on the screen, on one side we have the teacher, and that means bringing our own unique teaching style, our own unique teaching voice into the classroom. And then we have on the other side AI and what AI can do, and the goal is to have them connect and be together, but not have them replace. And so it's so important to think of AI as a supportive partner and not as a replacement for the things that we do in the classroom. The goal is to enhance our teaching practices through the use of AI in ways that complement rather than replace those human-centered approaches. And the best way for me to describe it is to think of AI as a virtual assistant. It can help with certain tasks like content creation, like grading, but it does not replace your own unique teaching style. And I'm going to say that again. It does not replace your own unique teaching style and voice in the classroom. And the key is truly to allow AI to handle repetitive tasks to help automate certain tasks. And that frees up more time for you to have those student interactions, to have that creative engagement and the collaboration and build a sense of community in the classroom. A couple of key things to consider with this is that every course is different, and AI should be customized to meet the needs of that course or to meet the needs of the students in that specific course. For example, it is important to adapt AI tools to fit the unique dynamics of your class, and this can be things like adjusting content difficulty, finding different AI tools based on each class, or taking the time to really determine whether or not AI should be used in that specific class. And then again, like I said, AI can be used to automate certain aspects of teaching, such as like grading or summarizing or brainstorming. But again, there really needs to be that human touch in the areas that matter most, which means we provide personalized feedback. We are the ones in the discussion forum, giving our own personal experiences, connecting with the students, and then trying to build that sense of community. So AI, in the end, it really should spark engagement and it should not distance students. The goal is to use AI in ways that strengthen, not diminish social presence and connection in your classroom. And co-teaching with AI, it's about collaboration. It's about using technology that empowers your teaching without losing the human elements. that really create those meaningful learning experiences. And so when we use AI thoughtfully, we can strike a balance. It has that balance that enhances both efficiency, engagement, and creativity. When we co-teach with AI and use it as a supportive partner or as a virtual assistant, it really helps alleviate some of those repetitive tasks and allows us more time to focus on the human elements that matter most. There's so many different elements that we could focus on, but in this scenario, we tend to look at the four main ones, which is social presence, connection, empathy, and community. And these four elements, they're kind of like a puzzle pieces. Individually, they each play a powerful role, but when you connect them together, they form the foundation for really meaningful human-centered learning. And social presence, this is what has been at the heart of this whole webinar series for the last couple of months. And that's about showing up as real people in a digital space. It's about being seen, being heard, and being felt. Empathy is so important, and empathy allows us to respond with care and understanding, especially when students are struggling or they feel unseen. Empathy really matters. And then connection is that thread that links all of us together. It links us to our students, and it links our students to each other. And then the really cool part is community. That's what emerges from when these pieces come together. It's a learning environment where trust, belonging, and collaboration truly thrive. So, as we begin this journey on how to successfully integrate AI into our classroom, it's essential that we don't lose sight of these human touch points. These aren't really just nice to haves. The human elements is what truly makes learning matter. Before diving into using AI tools or creating AI generated content, it is important to pause and ask one simple question, and that is this content going to connect with students the way I intend it to? This is also known as the recipient test, and it is a simple and powerful tool to check whether or not AI is going to help or hinder the learning experience in that specific moment. So let's go ahead and explore the recipient test and how it can guide us in using AI responsibly and meaningfully. So let's go ahead and take a look at the recipient test. Like I had mentioned, it is a very simple but powerful way to quickly evaluate whether or not our use of AI is done in an ethical, responsible manner and if it's human-centered. And so the recipient test, it only asks two questions, and those two questions are so important. The first one is, would I be comfortable on the receiving end of this? And then the second one is, would I want this experience for someone I care about? Let's say, would I want this experience for my spouse, my child, or maybe a niece or a nephew? And so this is so important. The recipient test matters because what it does is it shifts the focus away from the tool on what AI can do and what it should do. And what it does is it urges us to consider not just the tool itself, but the impact that it's going to have on the person who receives the output. And it's really not about rejecting AI. The recipient test is about using it with care. It encourages us to reflect on the impact that use of AI has to help preserve empathy. And it encourages us to use AI as a tool and not a replacement. And so when we take that time to consider the human on the other end of this AI use, we really make the most informed ethical decision about how and when we should use AI in the classroom. So how can we apply the recipient test in our classroom in a practical manner that leads to meaningful interactions? There's four key ways to do this. And the first one is to consider the impact it has on students. When we're creating AI generated content on things like feedback or discussion forum responses or replies to students in messages or emails, we want to ask questions like, is the tone respectful and supportive? And this matters because our students need to feel encouraged. They don't need to feel like something's criticizing them. We also want to evaluate for clarity and connection. So is this clear that this isn't auto-generated? Or is it that does it show that this is just a very generic response? When things are automated or generic responses come across, students can feel disconnected. And so we need to ensure that there's a personal touch. And then we also want to check for emotional resonance. And then also, does this lead for interaction? And a great way to do this with the recipient test is ask yourself this: would this AI generated content encourage, inform, or engage me as a student? Go ahead and put yourself in their shoes. If the answer is no, then it's time for revisions. And so when the recipient test fails, that's okay. Don't panic. It just means that there's an opportunity to improve. We want to go ahead and look at where we can revise, where we can add warmth, understanding, personalization. We want to add context. We want to make sure that look for things like, is the feedback or is the discussion response or message relevant to the student? We want to tailor and personalize everything we do to meet the needs of our student or to meet the needs of that class. And then finally, this is so important, and I'll say this over and over again, it's important to remember that AI use is just a first draft. It's not the final product. AI should not be the final product. It's great for generating ideas, but we need to also go back and look at the content and evaluate it. So that way we ensure that the human touch is there that's needed to go ahead and complete the message. So as we move forward in this webinar, remember the importance of empathy in our approach to using AI. Remember that it's important to start with ethical use, and this means that we never lose sight of the human connection while integrating technology. I know that was a lot of information to take in, so let's do a quick brain break. We're going to pause with purpose and try saying that 10 times fast. I've stumbled on brain break, pause with purpose a couple of times now. And so let's take a moment and we're going to reflect. I want you to ask yourself a question, and that's, how do you want your students to feel after leaving your online classroom? Do you want them to feel a sense of accomplishment, a sense of confidence, a sense of connection? And then also, once you answer that, let's look at what role could AI play in helping you create that experience without replacing your presence, without replacing your own unique personal teaching style, your own unique teaching voice. What role could AI play in enhancing that experience? So how can we use AI tools to enhance connection and engagement while still maintaining empathy, still maintaining the personal touch, all those social presence principles we learned about? This question is posted in the social presence literacy discussion forum, so please feel free to share. Go ahead and pause the video quick and then answer that question in the forum. While the recipient test is a great way to make quick decisions on whether or not to use AI in that moment, it's not enough when we are planning for long-term AI integration. And for that, we need a thoughtful approach. This 5-step framework that we're going to introduce will help you carefully evaluate AI tools and content to ensure that they align with your goals, your values, and the needs of your learners and that specific class. So let's go ahead and take a look at it. So at the Social Presence Literacy Lab, we have come up with a 5-step decision-making process to help faculty determine or to ensure that their use of AI aligns with social presence principles. As we move through these steps, the goal is to keep the human element at the center of our teaching while incorporating AI tools, while allowing AI to be that virtual assistant we talked about. So this process is going to guide you in things like evaluating, adjusting, and integrating AI in ways that support meaningful student engagement, collaboration, and connection. So let's go ahead and take a moment and look at each step and think about how we can apply this framework to our own teaching practices. The first step, and probably one of the biggest steps in this framework, is to evaluate the content for a social presence indicator. We want to make sure that we are looking at AI-generated content to assess whether or not it creates that meaningful interaction, whether or not it has that emotional connection, or it helps develop a sense of community among students. Think about the content's tone. Does it encourage collaboration? Does it encourage engagement? Are there opportunities for students to feel a sense of belonging with this AI content? When we evaluate the AI-generated content for social presence indicators, we're ensuring that the content aligns with the relational aspect, the relational dynamics that's essential for effective learning. Step number 2 and number 3, we are going to look at identifying gaps and then also adjusting the AI content to address those gaps. So step 2, where we identify the gaps in human connection, the gaps that in social presence when using AI-generated content. Even though AI tools can produce efficient content, sometimes, most of the time, it might be accurate content, they fall short in many areas such as empathy, personalized interaction, community, or emotional engagement. And this step will really help you spot where the content may be lacking these critical elements. And then it will also provide guidance on how to adjust so that way it better aligns with the principles of social presence. So 3 main gaps that we tend to see in terms of AI use is the lack of empathy. AI content can feel very impersonal or overly transactional. It misses the warmth. It misses the emotional connection, and then limited interaction. So AI generated content, while it might be quick and efficient, sometimes the content itself does not prompt or it does not elicit, engagement from students. It doesn't encourage meaningful participation or collaboration. And then AI, it tends to be inflexible. It tends to put a one size fits all content, and it really doesn't cater to the needs of the student, or it doesn't cater to the needs of that specific classroom. And so this is so important that we identify where it might lack empathy, where it might lack human interaction and inflexibility. And then we adjust the AI content to address those gaps. For example, it's so important to add personalized elements to AI generated content. Uh, Include personalized feedback, tailor responses, or customized content. It really helps resonate with students. It really helps improve the community and the engagement and the personalized learning experience in the classroom. And then also we want to incorporate interactive prompts for students, insert questions, ask follow-up questions with students, look at activities that invite students to engage with the content and to also engage with each other. And then we also want to introduce collaborative opportunities for students, provide opportunity for group work or peer feedback or collaborative projects. All this is so important because it helps create a sense of community within the classroom. Once we've identified the gaps in social presence in the AI generated content and have made changes to those to address those gaps, we move on to step 4 and step 5 in this framework. And step 4, we go from planning to practice. This is where you implement the revised AI generated content into the classroom and observe how students interact with it. Are they engaging with that material? Are they responding and having a sense of community, or are they responding emotionally or relationally to that content? Once it's implemented, gather feedback from the students. Determine whether or not, do the students like this generated content. You can do this by informal check-ins or ask them to give their thoughts in the discussion forum on the AI generated content. And this really helps you understand whether or not the content is resonating with students. Pay close attention into the social presence indicators like connection, engagement, and then also pay attention to whether or not they're disengaged with the content or whether or not there's confusion on the information that's being presented. This feedback is really helpful because it's a powerful tool in terms of improving the content, in terms of making sure that teaching aligns with social presence indicators. And then based on that feedback, in step 5, it's about refining and embedding the improvements into the classroom. It's a continuing process. So this is a feedback loop where teachers are continually honing in and refining content, ensuring that it meets the needs of their classroom. It's not a one and done deal. Adjust the AI content to better support students, to better provide empathy, engagement, and community, and then integrate these refinements into the regular instruction. Over time, the cycle, it really helps faculty members create an environment where teaching is really focused on the human-centered approach, and that AI is that supportive partner that we've talked about, and it does not replace their presence. It does not replace their voice or their teaching style in the classroom. As we move into the final section of this video, I want to center us on the heart of what this entire webinar series has been about, and that is meaningful education. It truly begins with you. While AI can enhance our efficiency, it can automate tasks and help with things like brainstorming, it's our human presence, it's our teaching presence, our empathy, and our purpose-driven choices that truly shape the learning experience for students. The next part, it's about making a conscious commitment, a commitment to lead with intention, a commitment for purpose, and to preserve the connection, and to let our values guide our use of AI. Because when we are rooted in humanity and we are powered by purpose, the possibility for meaningful, student-centered learning is truly limitless. So what do we mean by rooted in humanity, powered by purpose, and that it starts with you? At the Social Presence Literacy Lab, we urge everyone to join us in making a commitment that centers around our role as educators in this rapidly evolving and changing digital landscape. This is a pledge. It's a reminder to use AI-generated tools as a supportive partner in our teaching practices and not have it replace our teaching practices, not have it replace our own unique teaching style, our own unique teaching voice. And so by taking this pledge, we are affirming that we are going to use AI responsibly, with purpose, and in alignment with social presence principles. And that means we're going to choose tools, we're going to choose content that support empathy, that support interaction, encourages engagement, and has that authentic human connection. And we're pledging to keep students at the heart of everything we do and to use AI in ways that elevate the experience rather than diminish that personal relational experiences that are needed in the classroom. So please, this pledge is posted at the Social Presence Literacy Lab. The QR code's posted right there. Go ahead and sign this pledge and keep students at the forefront of what we do and use social presence principles to help maintain that human connection in the classroom. As we wind things down, I want to give a quick shout out to the Social Presence Literacy Lab that's housed in our Center for Innovation and Research and Teaching at Grand Canyon University, or the CERT website. The Social Presence Literacy Lab is truly wonderful as it has so many different resources and videos and information to help faculty truly have social presence at the heart of their teaching. And there's even information on the pathway to become an ambassador for the Social Presence Literacy Lab and a fellow for the Social Presence Literacy Lab. So please take a look at it when you have a moment. This is a shameless plug for the Social Presence Literacy Lab's discussion board. When you have a moment, please take a look at it. There's some really great discussions going on there. And then also please take a moment to sign the pledge to keep human connection at the center of our teaching, to make sure that any AI use that we have is aligned with social presence principles and that we use AI in an ethical manner with intentional purposes behind it, and that we keep students at the center of our teaching. Well, all good things must come to an end. We hope that this spring 2025 webinar series on the impact artificial intelligence has had on the landscape of education and how to keep the human connection, how to keep empathy and students at the forefront of everything we do through the use of social presence has been informational. We hope that you have learned some new things. And please feel free to share your thoughts with us at the Social Presence Literacy Lab in CERT. Go ahead and scan the QR code or click on the link that's attached below for attendance. And it has been really our pleasure to bring this information to you, and have a wonderful day.